Hello everyone, and welcome back to another hand lettering tutorial. I'm Natasha and I am half of Blue Peak Designs. My husband is the other half, and he will not be joining us for the hand lettering tutorial today. I just want to go over a few rules again. We are always going to be thinking about our down strokes. Remember, that is when you go down on the letter. That's going to create that thicker band on all of the words and to make it give that hand lettered look. We're going to work on connecting all the letters that we practiced today, and then we're just going to have some fun. I have rainbow colors here. When we go to write, I'm going to actually write with rainbow. So if you have rainbow colors, that'll be super fun. If you don't, that's okay. You don't have to have rainbow to do what we're going to do. So you might be able to hear, I have some music going in the background today. There was a comment last time that sometimes when there's downtime, it's hard to, or there's just kind of some silence. So I have some music. I can turn it up or turn it down. Just let me know. But today we are going to work on writing the word Easter, and I'm going to teach you how to add shadow lines to your work. This gives a really nice effect, and it's something fun to add to the lettering that you have been practicing. So to start, I'm going to just take my gray marker, and we're going to work on practicing the letters of Easter, and then we will work on connecting them. So we're going to learn how to add in those downstrokes. Since this E is capital, we're going to come back to that. We're going to start right here with A. We have done the letter A in the past, but we're just going to practice it again. So when we do the letter A, we're going to kind of go around and make, it looks kind of like a C. And then when we go down, I'm going to make a tail that looks like this. If you are new and haven't joined us before, it's going to be beneficial for you to draw in a baseline to kind of see where you're placing your letters. So as you can see, I made that first part of the A on and it touched the bottom of the baseline. And then for my tail, I went below the baseline. This just helps when you are connecting your hand letters or hand lettering to make it look bouncy and just give a really cool effect. So in order to go back and put in those down strokes that I talked about, if you have a thick, broad tip marker, you can simply go to the section where you are going to move your pen down, and you're going to press firmly and it will create a thicker stroke. Or if you have a thin marker and you're not able to do that, you can box it in like that and then color it in. So again, you make what looks like a C, go below the line and back up. These tails on the end are important for when you are going to go and connect your letters. Do the letter A. Like that. All right, so our next letter is going to be the letter S, and there are a few ways you could do the S. I typically like to do an S like this. So I go up at an angle, go around, I drop a little bit below the baseline and come through. This part is going to help you connect your letter. You can make an S like this, so you stay on that baseline, you come up and around and go through. It's a little bit more fancy, but today I'm actually going to work on this S. So I make a regular S, and then I just continue the tail around and cross it through, and this cross mark is going to help when we connect the letters. I'm going to go back in and make those down strokes thicker. Again, the downstroke is when you are writing, when your pen starts to go down on the paper. So just going down this way, that is considered a downstroke, and that's where you're going to have the thicker lines. Our next letter is going to be the letter T, and you're going to start at the top And for T's, you can stay on the baseline, so you can go down to the baseline, curve around and come up, or you can drop below the baseline and come up. Either one. This would be a good one to practice. If you have a broad tip marker, practice pushing harder, so that pressure to get that thicker downstroke so you don't have to go back, and then lifting up that pressure as you turn the corner here and go up. So down and then up. For the crosses of the T, you can stylize it any way that you want. So you could just simply cross it on the top. You could add a little wiggle like that, maybe add a diag. You could do short on one side, long on the other. Whatever really fits in your word or phrase that you're drawing, that's what's going to help. For the letter E, you can start in that midline. So if you had, imagine your paper looking like this. I start in the middle, I go around and down, just like you would a regular E. Nothing really fancy about this, except I am extending the tail upward so that we can connect those letters. If you're wanting to learn how to apply that pressure, right now I'm going to start pressing harder and then coming up. Around and up. If you are not able to put in that deep pressure right now on your letter, go ahead and write it out, and then you can go back and fill it in. So you can start here, draw in that to frame it out, and then go back and color in the downstroke. Like that. All right. And then for the letter R, this one you can vary it. It's the same motion, but you can vary it from whatever you're hand lettering. The loop on the R is going to change based on the space that you have to write it. So I like to start down at the baseline, and I come up and I make a loop outward, so like that, kind of at an diagonal, and go around. Looks like a candy cane. And then I'm going to pass through like this. And then I'm going to come down, and I like to go under and back up. So I go make my little candy cane. I go around, and when I go around, I'm kind of angling slightly down. I come down and back up. This one. So I'm going to fill in this part of my downward stroke, and then this right here, like that. Sometimes, like I said, you can change the size of this loop, so you could make it really large, like that, or you might have to make it really small. It just depends on the space that you have and what you're trying to do. It is harder to fill those in. Okay, so those are the lowercase letters that you need to write the word Easter. I'm going to show you how I do the uppercase letter, and then we can get started on writing it and then adding in the really fun shadow lines. So for a capital E, you can just make a regular E, angling it up a little bit so that you can connect it. The only thing I would suggest is, if you are going to do a regular E like this, is to make it somewhat rounded. So like I rounded the bottom, just because when you go in and write your other letters, they're more rounded, and it might look kind of silly if you are making a straight E like that. I mean, it won't look terrible, but it will just flow better if it's like this. But the E that I'm going to work on today is one that looks like that. So I'm going to start kind of in the middle and go around and make kind of like a half heart. And then I'm going to go around again and back up. My second hump for this particular one was on the inside of the one on the top. You can also do it so that your bottom is larger. It's just however you decide to style it. I'm going to go back in and put in those downstrokes. Like this. And then these ones would be the same. The downstrokes would be here and here. If you were wanting to do one of these printed E's, you could certainly do them, and you can also add in downstrokes to those as well. So this would be considered a downstroke, this part, and this part. So you can do those. All right, so now we are going to get into writing the word Easter. And we're going to connect all of our letters. So we learned how to do the downstrokes. Now we're going to connect them. When I write my letters today, I am going to write them in rainbow colors. If you do not have rainbow or you don't want to switch your marker, you do not have to do that. I just wanted to make it a little bit more fun and add a little bit of color because that's what's really fun about Easter and spring. So here we go. Our first letter in Easter is going to be that E. So I'm going to go around like this and up. So for this one, I chose to make the bottom a little bit larger than the top. I'm going to go back. Since I'm switching colors, I'm going to go in right now to make my downstrokes so I don't have to go back and fill in with the color again. I know Easter this year is going to be a little bit different for most people. Normally my husband and I would join in with our large family, but this year it's just going to be the two of us and our dog, and didn't even think about it when we went shopping. So I think we might have like a ham and potato bake that sounds appropriate for Easter, so maybe that's what we'll eat. But it's definitely going to be different. I think we're still going to get dressed up and do some fun things, but it's going to be one to remember, that's for sure. All right, so for our A, I'm going to use red. Make sure if you are switching colors that you made your extended mark with the color, the previous color. So now I've taken the red, and you're going to notice that my A is going to be up in the middle of the E. And so it's important to somewhat make your lettering on the same baseline. So you have to think about your baseline is here. I have to somewhat connect it so they all have this imaginary line going through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tail of my A and I'm going to extend it down. I'm going to go back and fill in those downstrokes. Just knowing the way that I need to make my next letter, I know I'm going to have to extend this out just because I've done this a few times, but you can always go back and extend your letter if you need to. So our next letter is going to be an S, and remember, I'm going to be making an S that looks like this today versus one that looks like this. You can certainly do the S's that look like this, or you can create one of your own, but I want to change it up and do an S like this. So I know when I connect these letters, I want my S to kind of be large and kind of be on the same level as the E. So I made a large S. And as you can see, I am pretty far away from that. So when I go and make my downstroke, since I am far away, I'm going to choose to put the downstroke on this side of my letter versus this side. So it gets a little bit closer to that. I could certainly make it even fatter, but then the thickness wouldn't really match the rest of my letters, and that might look goofy. So what I need to do is I need to go back with my previous color and fill it in. If you're using one color, just go ahead and connect it. Like that. All right, so my next letter is going to be a T, and I'm going to use yellow. So I'm going to start up, and I'm going to come down and back up. So for this one, I chose to drop it down so that these two match, and then the top here matches. I'm going to fill in this side, and I did make that a little bit thicker. I didn't really mean to do that. And I am not actually going to cross my T yet because I want to see where my other letters fall. So I'm going to put my yellow marker aside and come back to that. Now I'm going to do an E, and remember the E is just going to go around and through, just like a regular E. And you can connect your E in a variety of places. So for right now, since I made this tail super long, my E is going to connect right here. Your E could connect up there. Wherever you feel like it needs to connect, it's totally fine. So I'm going to go back through here. Color in, and my E is actually thinner than the rest, so I'm going to go through and just not press hard, but just go over the letters again with the marker. And then my last color is going to be blue, and for the R, when we practiced making our R, we started down at the baseline. Because our E that we're connecting it to kind of comes through the baseline, we're going to connect the R midway. So using different colors, it might actually look kind of silly, but that's just what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go up, and now I'm going to drop my R down pretty far. So it's kind of at the same level as the A. Not quite as low as the T or the E, but kind of in the same level as these. And when I go back, I'm going to fill in this top part and then this downstroke right here. All right, so now that I have my Easter written, I'm going to now go back and I'm going to add in the cross T or part of the T. So I'm going to, I actually want to extend it a little bit more. So draw it in. And then I see that I kind of have some space here and some space here. It'd be perfect for a flowy cross on the T. So I'm just going to do it like that. Excuse me. Again, you can just do a swoosh through. You can make it a straight bar, whatever you choose. But I'm choosing to do one that looks like that. So now we're going to go back and we are going to add in shadow lines. And this is going to just add some more fun to your letter or your wording, make it look like it's kind of coming off the page. For this, I am going back with a gray marker. If you used one color throughout, if you have another color, choose a different color just so you can see the effect. Or if you only have one marker right now, just practice it. And then when you can go and get more markers, you can go back and practice the different coloring. So the thing to remember when you are putting shadows in is you need to think about where your light source is coming from. So you think if you're outside and the sun is shining on you, like I have a light here, the shadow is going to be over here. So what I like to do is I like to get an item. So I think like an eraser is the sun. So the light source is coming from this side. So that means that all of my shadows are going to be on the right side of the letters. So I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to kind of outline those areas. And again, it's most likely going to be the areas that you did your downstrokes, but there are going to be some areas that you are going to put the shadow on the upstrokes. It's just going to typically be reversed, and I'll show you. So for here, I'm going to go around like this, and you might see that I have a slight gap in between, and that's just to show that it just helps it look like it's kind of bouncing off the page versus just kind of outlining it. So I've done this part, so the sun is shining here, and I've casted a shadow here. There's also going to be a shadow on this part. And I stop it here because as this is going up, the sun is hitting that. So there wouldn't be a shadow on this upstroke on the side, on this side, but there would be a shadow casted on this side of the upstroke. So if we move our light source, or you can keep your light source if you kind of are understanding this, but if you don't, you can move it. So your light source is hitting this outer band here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to put in a shadow mark here. I'm going to put in a shadow mark here. And then I'm also going to think about where the sun might be hitting. Or casting a shadow. So this part starts to go down. So I'm going to put a little shadow mark there. And then on this side, I'm going to put a shadow there, and as well as on my upward stroke there. I'll move this out of the way. All right, for the S, I'm going to start here. And then I'm going to stop. I'm not going to go through this crossbar here because the shadow wouldn't be casted there. I'm going to break it up. So I went all the way down to the bar, I picked my pen up, and I'm gonna go on the other side, and I'm gonna go around like that, and then stop right at the bottom because the sun is going to be hitting this side. There's going to be a shadow here. And then there will also be a shadow right on the top. As well as there. So I kind of connected these two lines. You don't have to do that, but I connected them. And then for the T, this one's pretty simple. It's just a straight line. So again, I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to stop once I get to that crossbar there. And I'm going to pick up my pen, go underneath it, and I'm going to go straight down. If you did use yellow, outlining it will help it stand out a little bit because yellow is a bright color and kind of hard to see on the paper. So this side is going to have the shadow, and then I'm going to have a shadow here. I kind of ran into the T because I was looking at my camera and not what I was actually doing. And then I'm going to have a shadow just on this little part there. For the E, I'm going to put in the shadow here. And then around there. So I'm not actually connecting the letters. I'm sure if there was like a master shadow artist on here, they probably would do that, but I didn't connect my letters. But I am going to draw a shadow up through this upward stroke here. For inside the loop, you might have a really small space inside if you didn't make your loop very large. So if you did and you don't want to fill it in, that's okay. I'm going to put a thin little line, making sure that I'm curving it so that it looks like the shadow's being casted by this thick bar and not this upward stroke. And then I'm going to put shadow here. And then I actually am going to put a shadow here because I'm envisioning that this bar is blocking that. And then I'm going to put shadow there. Probably could put one here too. So there is my Easter written with shadow lines. So that's really fun. Something that you could do to decorate your house. You could, if you have kids, you could play around with your kids and they could do rainbow and write with Easter. You could do chalk outside and you could add shadow lines, which is really cool. I did earlier do a few different designs that I wanted to show you that you could play around with if you wanted to. So I just wrote Easter and I just wrote happy in print and I drew a little carrot. I wrote Easter menu. So if you wanted to write out your menu, if you have a chalkboard at home, you could write your Easter menu and what you're eating. That'll be fun, fancy, maybe something different than you don't normally do. However, I know someone on my Facebook every day, she has a whiteboard and she writes out what she's having for dinner for her family every day. That's incredible. So if you do that, kudos to you. If you're going on like an egg hunt, I found something similar to this on Pinterest. So I just wrote the hunt is on. And so on hunt, I did put in some shadow lines. And then I wrote hunt in print, but I did do thick downstrokes and thin upstrokes, even though it is in print. And then I wrote the and is on in cursive. And then I did do Easter again here. I like it better here than what I did here, I think. So I hope that you enjoyed writing Easter. I really would love for you to share what you've done, post something on your Facebook, create something awesome and share it for everyone to see on Easter. I definitely encourage you, even if you are at home, and like I said, it's just my husband and I, we are going to, he doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to make sure that we get dressed up and we take a photo because that's something we would normally do on Easter, and we have a kind of a fancy dinner, even though I didn't know what we were going to have, but it's going to be fun. If you have young kids and you would love to do a fun egging of someone else's house, so you can kind of take some Easter eggs and with your gloves on and you're wearing your mask, go scatter them in your neighbor's yards. Our friends over at the Paws Pursuit, they have an Instagram and a Facebook. They have some free downloads right now of some really cute cards that you can include in your baskets for your neighbors. So happy Easter to everyone. Thank you so much for joining. If you want to continue practicing, remember I will have this uploaded to our YouTube page. It's Blue Peak Designs. I think we only have, this will be our third video, so we may show up in the search, but if we don't, I will have it linked to our Instagram tomorrow. So thanks so much. Again, tag us, Blue Peak Designs, and we'll be back here next Thursday.